When you let sin stay alive, like a little pet on a leash in your heart, Satan takes that little pet that you think you have under control and he uses it as a sword to hurt the people you love. Speaking prophetically about himself and Satan and the church, here's what Jesus said. Matthew 13, Jesus said, his enemy, this is a parable, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. Now, if you're not too good with metaphors, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you what this means. His enemy, you can put the next screen up for me, that's Satan. His, talking about Jesus, and his enemy is Satan. Look down at the red square. The wheat is the church. And the weeds are the hypocrites that Satan sowed inside the church so that he could get inside and destroy what God is doing. That's what Jesus meant. Luke is writing about the fulfillment of this prophecy that Jesus gave. And it starts in chapter 5. What you're about to read is one of the most startling events in history. It happened as a result of one couple, a husband and wife, and their careless cooperation with Satan. The true historical account that you're about to read about the death of a Jewish man named Ananias and his wife, whose name was Sapphira, has served down through the years as a strong warning. It serves as like a cautionary tale so that people will know how serious God takes sin. Acts chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. Here's what it says. A man named Ananias, with his wife Sapphira, sold a piece of property. And with his wife's knowledge, he kept back for himself some of the proceeds and brought only a part of it and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and to keep back for yourself part of the proceeds of the land? While it remained unsold, did it not remain your own? And after it was sold, was it not at your disposal? Why? Why is it that you've contrived this deed in your heart? You've not lied to man, but to God. When Ananias heard these words, he fell down and breathed his last. And great fear came upon all who heard of it. The young men rose up and wrapped him up and carried him out and buried him. His sin was not that he kept back some of the property proceeds. Lots of people think that. That's not what it was at all. That's why Peter went to such great lengths to say, look, the property was yours to do with as you wanted. And then after you sold it, the property was still yours to do with as you wanted. So if you'd just come to me and said, look, we feel the Lord leading us to give a portion of the proceeds to the apostles to use for God's kingdom, but we need to keep a portion of the proceeds because we have debt or whatever. It's yours to do with as you please. But instead, you came in front of us and said, we're giving it all, knowing that you weren't. The sin was not that he kept back part of the land. The sin was that he lied and presented himself as though he did. That's why when he stood before Peter, who was filled with the Holy Spirit, he says, you're testing the Holy Spirit. Because Peter was filled with the Spirit. It's almost as if Ananias was saying, are you really in there, God? He wasn't lying to Peter. He was lying to who was inside of Peter. Every time I've taught on Ananias and Sapphira in a small group or as a portion in a previous sermon, someone asks, isn't this a little harsh? All they did was lie and God struck them dead. Isn't that a little extreme for telling a lie? And typically my answer is always the same. You're asking the wrong question. The better question is, why does God allow any one of us to live? The wages of sin is death. Someone that asks that question really has no idea how holy this God is. There is not one stain on God. No injustice in Him. No lying. And He created this creature, you, me, in His image. And we sin against Him. The real question is, why did God allow him to go this long? Why does God have such patience with me? That's what you should be asking. So yes, this is serious because God takes sin very seriously. Ananias and Sapphira were used by God as a cautionary tale as the church was getting started to remind the church down through the ages, right up to us, who've probably reached the very, very, very end of the age, that God still takes sin very seriously. And so you know when you've made an agreement, amnesty with your sin, because you start hearing things like this. Don't take it so seriously. You're being too hard on yourself. Everybody does it. I bet if you looked around, you could find a whole lot of people who sin a whole lot more than you do. As a matter of fact, just go open a book and read about Hitler. He's way worse. You hear things like that when someone's looking for a way to cooperate with their favorite sin because they love it and don't want to get rid of it. It's just easier to have you as a little pet in my life. That's exactly why Peter wrote what he did, because people were getting a casual relationship with sin in their life. They love to look on the news and say, aha, there's the bad guys. I'm the good guys. Peter said, look, you don't have any idea about this enemy we're facing. That's why Peter wrote this to the church. 1 Peter 5. He says, be sober-minded. That means wake up. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. And he finds people who've made peace with their sin. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. We don't cooperate with our sin. We don't make friends with it. We execute it. The only role that a Christian has against their sin is crucifier. Your job is to crucify your sin, day in and day out. Don't be like Ananias and Sapphira.